This is We the Sales Engineers Podcast, show 62.
Welcome to We the SE's podcast, the show for sales engineers by sales engineers with your host, Ramsey Marjaba. Ramsey is such a motivated, dedicated, and driven man when it comes to watching his favorite TV shows, of course.
Today I had my first repeat guest. He goes by the name of Moni Assi, and I used to work with him in the past. He was on show 26. You can check out that episode on wethesalesengineers.com/show26. So I used to work with Moni, and he moved to another company, which is a Value Added Reseller. And I've had some bad experiences in the past working with or through VARs. So I wanted to get Moni on to get his perspective, to see how they think and why it's different, and I wanted to see if I had the right to be upset with the way they work or not. So he's my first repeat guest. I'm happy to have him on. But before we get into the show, I just wanted to remind everybody that I am reaching out to every single subscriber to the newsletter on my website for the month of June. And I'm doing that because I want to get feedback on what you guys want, what is helpful to you, so that when I build more blog posts, or if I need to change the podcast, or if I need to change the website, it'll be something that fits your needs. This has been fun, but I've been doing it for me for a while because I wanted to learn about some stuff, but I also want to do something useful for everybody else. So sign up to the newsletter. If you have signed up and you haven't received an email from me, you might want to check your spam, or give me a couple more days to catch up on all the emails that I've received. I look forward to chatting with you, but now, without further ado, let's jump into the show. Mr. Assi, good morning.
Good morning to you, Mr. Marjaba.
This is way too formal. This is not starting off on the right note.
You want me to sing? Make a better note?
Definitely not.
No? Okay.
Nope. All right, so welcome back, Moni. You were a guest on my show on episode 26, so more than half a year ago.
Thanks for having me back.
Yeah. Why am I having you back again?
I don't know, because you didn't have any other guests lined up, so you wanted to have somebody for this week.
That's not fair. Sort of true, but that's not fair. Well, right. Actually, you have a unique experience that I want to dissect. Well, maybe not unique, but you're the only one I know with that experience, so unique to me.
Nice. I'm glad I could be that one for you.
Right. Yeah, thank you. It runs in the family, I guess. So in case anyone was wondering, Moni is my brother-in-law. I think I did the same thing last time. I'm married to his sister, and we have a special relationship where we have a love-hate or love-love relationship. I don't know what you want to call it.
Yeah, call it more like love-love.
Okay, this is getting weird.
You love me.
We're going to have to cut all this out.
Sure, no problem.
So you have a unique experience in the sense that you've worked for both vendors and for value-added resellers, which from now on will be referred to as VARs. Okay.
Correct.
And that's the part that I wanted to discuss with you today. If anybody wants to hear Moni's background, go listen to episode 26. Or if you want to do a brief background right now, that would be a good time too.
Brief background. Well, I've worked in IT for over 10 years now. Started off working at a telecom company here in Canada. And then I worked in a company which manufactures products that do test and measurement for telecom and security companies, generally in the traffic generator type of equipment, channel emulation, mobile device testing, network testing, live network testing, so on and so forth. And most recently, about a year ago, I joined a cybersecurity value-added reseller, or what you would call a managed security service provider. So not only do we sell products for security services, we also have managed services for firewalls, SIEMs, data loss prevention system, and we do threat hunting, so managed detection and response service too.
And you have been pretty much in sales this entire time. Like I think you were inside sales with the service provider,
Yes, that's correct.
and then
And then
sales, and then sales.
exactly. So I went from inside sales for a couple of years. Then I did corporate account management, outside sales for another couple of years. And then after that, I did major account management for 3 years. And then now I'm here for 1 year in cybersecurity specifically.
Although this is not the topic of conversation, but since you brought it up, well, actually, I brought it up. What's the main difference between inside sales versus outside sales?
That's a good question. Inside sales is pretty much what it sounds like. You're working inside of a location, whether it be the office of your company, or some people work remote from home. They have their laptop and they have their phone and they're writing emails and they're making phone calls. Essentially, there's a couple of different definitions for inside sales. Some people view, or some companies use their inside sales force as account managers that work inside of the company. So they're doing the prospecting, they're doing the development of the opportunity, they're closing the opportunity, and then they maintain that customer for a long period of time, or they may pass it off to another account manager, and their job is purely hunting for the new deals. So my job was hunting for the new deals and managing the accounts after closure for future growth of that account. Other companies view inside sales as a newer term, that's a business development representative, a BDR, or an SDR, a sales development representative. And their job is to find the opportunities to hunt and book meetings for account executives, account managers to go and develop the opportunity and then close the deal. So those are the couple of different kinds of the quote unquote inside sales, if you will. An outside sales representative will be working in the field. So whether they're home or office based, but they will be visiting with customers. They'll be going on customer sites, doing their meetings there, developing the relationship, taking them. Some companies, do taking them out to different events, restaurants, and business meals, and so on. And we also manage the account from start to close and for future business afterward. Yeah. So that's kind of a definition of inside versus outside sales.
Any idea what the difference is in terms of compensation?
Typically, an outside sales representative will make a considerable amount of money more than the inside sales representative. It's for more senior people to be working outside. Customer facing is definitely for more senior folks, usually.
So if someone wants to start off in sale, they could go directly into outside sales, but also they could hone their skills as a inside salesperson as well.
That's definitely true. The thing is that it depends on which organization you're working in. Way back in the days, my first real sales job, if you will, was working door-to-door selling alarm systems. So technically speaking, I was doing outside sales, but it's a very low value type of product, business to consumer. And it's different than working B2B, business to business. In business to business, usually you're going to start off in inside sales to sharpen your saw there and learn the trade a little bit better. And plus, that way, I think companies, when they see junior salespeople starting off in inside sales, they have more direct management over them if they come into an office. So there's more chances for coaching, skills development, and team meetings happen more frequently. So you get to learn from your peers. So there's definite value in working and starting off in inside sales versus working in outside sales in B2B, because you definitely learn a lot more from your team and your management that way.
And do inside sales work with inside SEs or not necessarily? Do you need SEs as an inside sales guy?
I've worked with inside SEs and in my current job right now with partner manufacturing companies that we work with. So you'll have an inside sales rep, for example, that's his responsibility will be companies that are between 250 to 3,000 employees. Anything above 3,000 employees, then it becomes an enterprise account manager's job, and those people are usually local outside salespeople. Now, the inside sales representative will have an inside SE, and that SE will be shared amongst a handful of inside SEs, maybe 3 to 5, for example, and then that person will be directing the demos from an inside. So he'll do the webinars essentially. That's what an inside SE's role would be.
Okay. All right. Well, let's transition back. Yeah. That does answer my question. Let's transition back to the VAR versus vendor.
Mm-hmm.
So, what does a VAR do?
There's different levels of VAR that I've seen in my current role. The base VAR will be a simple reseller. A lot of the vendor manufacturers, if you will, of the software or the products will have different distribution models. So instead of having their own sales force, some may have their own direct sales force, but typically what their business model is, they'll have different what you call value added resellers to resell their products. And some of them are just transactional. Okay, you have this, for example, a firewall, and you want to sell it through different channels, and you have this one company that's willing to sell your equipment, and it's a simple transaction. If customer A wants to buy this firewall, they'll go to the VAR. Okay, I want to buy this for 50 or 100K. The VAR will add a small margin of profit on it, and they'll do the transaction, but all the support, whatever that customer needs from a post-sales perspective, even from a deployment perspective, they're on their own. They have to deploy it themselves, they have to install it themselves, maybe maintain it. If they have support from the manufacturer, 24/7 support, whatever the case may be, they have to call the manufacturer for the support. Any kind of technical issues, they open tickets, so on and so forth. So that's more of a basic VAR. We consider ourselves more to be a VAR that has what you actually call value. So we are an integrator is what you would call us. So if you want to buy, whether it's a firewall or a security incident event management tool or data loss prevention or antivirus, whatever the case may be, we can deploy that for you. We can help you integrate it into your existing network. We can help you to optimize them, because it's not only a fact of, oh, hey, I have a firewall, I'm just going to put it in, turn it on, and away you go. There's a lot of customization that you need to do specifically to your network. So we can help you deploy and manage that afterward. So not only are we helping you to acquire and deploy, we're also helping you with post-sales. If you have any questions about it, we can help you to resolve some issues depending on the service level that you have with us. And then we can also help you to manage it. So you don't have to only hire your own staff or have more staff than you actually need. You can outsource it essentially to us, and we can co-manage it with you.
So if VAR is not adding any value, wouldn't that be considered more of a channel partner?
That would be considered a channel partner, but at the same time,
from a vendor perspective.
But some channel partners do add value. They just don't call themselves that. I mean, there's no set definition. You can't open up a dictionary and say, okay, a VAR is exactly this, or a channel partner is exactly that. There's different perspectives and different ways to go about managing. Some companies, some vendors just want you to find those opportunities. As soon as you find them, you bring them in, and they'll run the meetings, they'll do the demos, they'll even close the deal. You just get to make your X percentage of profit on that sale, and that's it. So it really depends on the product. And even for us, we don't deploy every product that we sell. We don't manage every single product that we sell. Some of them are just, as you call it, a channel partner type of sales, right? This company wants product X. We can source it for them. We could sell it to them. We can get them connected with the technical resources that they need to learn about the product and have demos and proof of concepts with them. And then after that, we just help to manage the relationship going forward.
Yeah, not having a specific definition is kind of the curse of everybody in sales. because we don't like sales engineer or systems engineer could mean so many different things, and so many different tasks are like one company A has these tasks. For example, my previous company, pre-sales sales engineer meant just sales and like pre-sales. We don't do anything post-sales, or we weren't supposed to. Current company, we're supposed to do both pre-sales and post-sales to an extent. So yeah, you're absolutely right in terms of definitions. There aren't any for it's whatever you make of it, basically.
Exactly. Some models work better for companies than others. They might try something and it doesn't work, and they just pivot into a different type of model, and that might work better for them. And some companies are just too small to have other resources to do the deployment and do the installation and do the management. They're just starting out. Maybe they're a 2, 3, or 10-person shop. I know a couple of them. I have a friend that works at one. They're just a handful of people, maybe not more than a dozen, and their job is, like I explained before, to find those deals and to open up that opportunity, do the early discovery just to figure out if there's an opportunity there. And then they bring in the partner afterwards, the right fit for what they think the client needs, and then they take it from there. They just help to close the deal after.
So, what are some of the difficulties working for a VAR?
Where should I start?
Should we list them off?
It's not difficulties. There's a lot of choice and a lot of options. That's the thing, because about 20 years ago, and I'll use cybersecurity as an example because I know that field very well. In cybersecurity, you had point solutions. You had these analyst companies like Gartner and Forrester. They were always pointing companies to the cream of the crop. If you need a firewall, that's the one that you need to get. If you need a SIM, that's the one that you need to get. If you need antivirus, this is. So over the years, these companies have accumulated, on average, last time I checked, it was between 30 and 35 different tools in their network just to do security. And that becomes cumbersome because if you have to have employees that are trained on 35 different tools from 35 different vendors that have different UIs or command line interfaces and different settings, you're going to have a problem on your hands unless you have a huge staff. Like if you're in a financial institution or a large software company, yeah, you might have the staff to manage that. But if you're a manufacturing company, or even if you're a small software development company, if you're in healthcare, for example, if you're a hospital, you don't have the funds or the resources to manage everything. So what security companies have done over the last couple of years, if they started to consolidate their different solutions. So you have some companies that are trying to be an end-to-end one-stop shop for everything in security. Some of them are doing it well. Others are having a hard go at it because they're not only developing their own tools, they're buying other competitors or companies in the space that they want to be in that already have customers, and they're having a hard time to integrate the solutions together. So it's becoming a mishmash of different things. So what happens is these now the story is, or the kind of the pitch to these organizations that have low resources is, hey, why don't you start consolidating all of your tools for one vendor, because you're going to have a much easier way to manage this. You're going to have one interface where everything connects into it and you can manage it. So it's going to be much easier, much more flexible for you, and your own employees only have to be trained on that one platform. So that way you don't have to send them for multiple different training events, sending them off to different cities, and you're paying for this training and time lost. And if they go on vacation, what happens if that employee leaves and you bring in the next employee that's not trained on, the 28 other tools that you have in your network? It's going to be really, really difficult. So I think the industry is going towards the right direction, but it's going to be difficult and challenging to begin with because you're going to have to get rid of all these tools that you have today in the phased approach.
So, like for a VAR, you generally work with multiple vendors, possibly. Like,
correct.
Are you expected to know everything about all the different vendors? Like, are you the expert or are you a generalist?
It depends on where you are in your career in the field. Eventually, you become somewhat of an expert in a handful of vendor products. But to begin with, you're expected to be a generalist, and usually the company that you're working for will have 5 to 10 preferred partners that they have. Some of them even have a policy where they will only work with one vendor for one type of solution. And to me, that makes sense because you remove the complexity of working with different vendors that sell the same thing and having to know the differences between all those same exact products pretty much. But in my case, when customers find out that we work with many different companies that do almost the same thing, they start asking for quotes and demos and so on and so forth from these multiple different vendors. And in some cases, you can do it. In other cases, when the vendor is the one that brought you in on the opportunity, we find it unethical to provide resources from a different company, because it's only fair. If you brought me into a deal, you expect me to help you to close the deal with you. I'm not going to bring in someone else from a different manufacturing company to show that customer a similar solution.
So a vendor brings you in because you have like a value added solution that integrates both solutions together, correct? They're not bringing you in for like competition reason.
It again, it depends. It depends. I'll take your latter example. So sometimes we will have a vendor that brings us into an opportunity because their customer asked them for 3 different quotes. My company policy is I have to make a purchasing decision based on the lowest price from 3 different, value-added resellers or whomever, 3 different sources. Sometimes they'll bring us in for that, and we'll oblige because you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. You got to bring me into another new deal next time where we'll work together, and I'll be the first vendor and that's very important for us to be the first that's in there for financial reasons. Going back to your first example, do they bring us in because we're an integrator or we can deploy it properly or we have people that are trained on the solution? Yes to that as well.
All right. And you also worked for vendors, right? In your previous, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How was it working when you worked for a vendor? Like, how would you differentiate working for a vendor with working for a VAR?
Well, I'd also like to add that we also are a vendor. We have our own software as it stands right now, and we have an endpoint detection and response software that we manufacture ourselves, and we use it in our threat hunting service. So I just wanted to point that out as well.
Okay, so all right, let me rephrase my question then.
Mm-hmm.
How is it working on selling your own product versus selling your partner's products?
When we're selling our own product, or when I strictly, in my previous life when I was selling my own product, it's more of you don't have a choice but to sell this one solution, and you have to show them the value of why your solution is better or why they should choose your company. I mean, you're still doing that, in any case that you're selling. You always have to show the value of why the customer wants to partner with you for a sale. I find it that with more focus and less options that you have, then the easier it becomes. Because sometimes right now when I'm going into a situation, the customer is saying, oh yeah, I have this project that I'm working on and we're looking at different solutions. And to us, other than, okay, we prefer to work with this vendor, what is the value to this customer that we're bringing in this partner? So we have to figure that out internally. So we have different subject matter experts to help guide us in that decision-making process. Because if you have 3-4 different vendors where their products are fairly similar, then we get to learn more about the customer's environment and we figure which one that we should suggest. And once we suggest that solution, 90 to 95% of the time we're going to stick with it and we're going to run with that solution for that customer, because that's our original decision. And we like to think that we make the right decision for the customer from the get-go, and we usually do. So we stick with that solution.
Right. So If you offer the first solution, that doesn't work. Do you come back with the second solution?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to.
Why?
Well,
If they're
do you want?
if they're competing, if like the two offerings are competing.
Mm-hmm. But if it's not the right fit for the customer, so my job is 50-50 representing the customer, and the other 50% is representing the interest of my organization. So if what I'm offering to the customer doesn't fit their needs, then I'm not doing that service to the customer. They need something that's going to work, and it's not only my company's reputation that's on the line. It's my own personal reputation, my own personal brand that's on the line. So I have to make sure that this customer is getting exactly what they need, and it's the right fit for their requirements.
Okay. So I worked for a vendor. I worked for vendors, and I've worked with resellers that would, like, I would find out later that they didn't bring me in first. They brought my competition in first.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't work out, and then they brought me in, and I was not happy about that, mainly because they're direct competitors, and the differences in the products are minimal in terms of what they can do. It's how they do it that's different. So, like, was I right to be pissed off at the VAR or the reseller in this case?
I can't tell you whether you're right or not, but if your competitor's solution didn't do the job properly, maybe, I mean, it might have been a situation where the customer had a preference for that.
In the end, neither solution was right.
Well, then you don't have a right to be upset at all because nothing worked for the customer anyway. But I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example. So I work with a small financial institution where I started working with them on, let's call it product X one day. And then through a couple of meetings, they told me, oh, hey, by the way, I started probing, what else are you guys working on, right? And they started saying, oh, well, we're working with this manufacturer directly, learning about their product. I said, well, hey, you know what? I work with them too. If you want, I can help you moving forward with these guys if you're not working with any other reseller on it. They said, yeah, okay, sure. That sounds good. So I contacted that manufacturer, and sure enough, they were working with them, and they had already shown them a demo for one of their product lines. So okay, that's great. Now, as we're moving this deal along, after one demo, I went to see them because the manufacturer is working remote. They're working from an inside sales perspective, so they can't go see the customer on site. But I'm there. That's another value add, actually, working with VARs, is that sometimes if you're a manufacturer, your sales force can't go see all these customers at the same time. So, or maybe it's an inside sales, or maybe they're out of the country, or whatever the case may be. Your partner can actually usually go see them, have some boots on the ground. So that's nice to have. So anyway, going back to the customer, is that, oh yeah, well, you remember you were telling us you worked with this other company that does something similar to these guys? Can you set up a demo with them? I said, well, is there anything wrong with this product that you're seeing? Is it not doing something that you're wanting it to do? No, we just want to see what else is out there. And I told them, like, hey guys, I can't bring in that other one because this product seems to be doing what you guys want. They brought us in here, and out of respect for this vendor, then we're going to stick with these guys because I know their prices are very similar. You're not going to save any money because the other one is even more expensive. So you're better off just staying with these guys. Oh, okay, cool, thanks. Yeah, let's do that then. And we just stuck with it, and then everything was good after that. So it really depends on what the situation is and what the customer is looking for.
Yeah, my situation was a bit different, I guess, in the sense that there was no qualification or discovery done by the VAR, and they brought in the first team, and it wasn't what they wanted was not a service or a product that they provided. And then they brought us in, and it wasn't service or product that they provided. But it felt like there's no research done, and also like you're just gonna flip flop between. And okay, here's some background. They had promised that they wouldn't sell the other one, so they promised that they will sell it for us exclusively. although it was not a contract.
Right.
Anyways, so
Well, I mean, hey, that's business. Sometimes these kind of things happen, and then maybe that other, the VAR was more comfortable with the previous company that they were with.
it's possible.
Maybe they had a better relationship.
You don't need to
Maybe
defend them. You don't need to
I'm,
defend them. It's fine.
I'm not. Okay, they're bastards.
All right.
Let's trash them.
I'm gonna beep that out. But I do like the idea of like the benefits of working with a VAR is like basically you have more feet on the ground who can like, spot different opportunities and all that. But as a vendor, you worked with VARs as well. Like
Yes.
you had to sell. Did you actually do any selling through a VAR?
Yes.
Okay. So how is that relationship working? Like
The working through a VAR, it's a little bit challenging because putting myself in their shoes, they have a whole portfolio of products to sell, so they have to figure out which one do I want to sell today, or what is the product line that I want to be kind of an expert in, and where do I see myself working in the next couple of years. So if I stay at this company, I need to become an expert in these 5 different companies' products. And how do I want to focus my time? Where do I see the most opportunity? And that's the challenge for the manufacturer, because you have to show them the value in your products versus everything else that they're working with. So not only is your VAR responsible for selling your product, you're responsible for selling your products or your services to that VAR and get them enthusiastic about doing it with their customers in return. So it's like a chain. It's like a daisy chain. A butterfly effect is the more enthusiastic and the better you are at selling your products and solutions to the VAR, the better it is, and the more equipped they'll be in turn to do it with their customers. So our job is obviously training on the products is very good. Teaching them how to do a proper discovery, or at least the first qualifying questions. That's something that we always were giving to them. And we were refining that process, because if something didn't work properly, like you said, maybe there was a case of a bad discovery or maybe no discovery. Hey, why did this happen? What are the questions that you asked? Okay, here are some better questions that you can ask next time. So it's a constantly evolving sales process with the VAR that has to continue to grow.
I've personally had bad experiences with VARs in the sense that, and it could be our fault really, because we always took the stance as, well, they don't know how to sell or anything, so we just ignore them. And if you hear these buzzwords, call us and bring us in. Versus what you were saying, where like provide some information, give them some qualification questions, and let that like help work together versus through them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you have to take responsibility into your own hands, because if these people are not properly trained, if they don't know what questions to ask, or buzzwords are really good too. You have to start somewhere. So what are the buzzwords? From these buzzwords, here are the top 3 questions that you need to be asking. And if you can get us into a meeting, then we can ask the rest of the questions that we need to figure out what this customer is actually looking for. And I never viewed a meeting that I had with a customer as wasted time, because you're making a new contact for yourself, for your company. Maybe they can give you an introduction to somebody else in their organization or outside of their organization. And B, it's a training opportunity for your VAR to learn about how you go about doing discovery. Because if they're better equipped to do discovery, then they're going to be more prone to waste less of your time going forward.
Yeah. So in both cases, you're like, what I was doing, I was taking responsibility, except my responsibility was just find out, like, hear those buzzwords, call me, versus your responsibility. What you were saying is that you hear those buzzwords, hear some qualification questions, let's work together. So they're both taking responsibility. It's just your way was better than my way of doing it.
My way is always better than your way of doing things. So that goes without saying.
Let's agree to disagree about that. Or let's agree that you're wrong.
Can you put me in a quotation little box and put that one? My way is usually better than your way.
I could if you want.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And then I'm gonna say that I said that.
I'll refute that.
Okay.
All right.
Listen, I know you have a call soon, so how about we move on to the not so fire round? because that usually takes a bit of time, and that way you have some time for to grab a coffee before your next call.
Excellent.
All right. So, what is the one thing you love about doing what you're doing?
One thing, there are many things that I love about what I'm doing.
Pick the best one.
The best one.
All right, pick whichever one you want.
I love learning about new technology. I love working with different clients, the interaction. I've always been kind of a techie type of guy. If situations were different once I was done school, I might have been more in the doing or creating of the technology than I am right now. But I am quite a people person, so I get to merge those two things that I really enjoy doing together. So yeah, I think the interactions, working with people, developing relationships, new technology, providing solutions, yeah, that's all bundled up into one thing.
I thought you were gonna say what you love most is talking to me, but all right.
That's a close 14th.
I'm still in top 20. I'll take it.
Top 15 actually.
Yeah. Well. Yeah, I don't do math very well as a sales engineer.
Yeah, and you're the engineer. Yeah, go figure.
That's why I'm a sales engineer.
Ah, okay. Well, that's why I'm in sales.
Yeah.
I'm all about the numbers.
Yeah, you do math more than I do.
Yeah.
All right. So what would be one thing you would change about your job? Other than talk to me more.
One thing I would change about my job other than talk to you more.
Talk to me less.
Talk to you less. Yeah, that's a good thing. What would I change about my job? Oof, that's a tough question. That's a good question.
Do you want me to make it more difficult?
Yeah, can you make it more difficult?
All right. So what is one thing you would change about your job, and how would you go about changing it?
Man, that's really, I haven't given that much thought. You're stuck, not stuck, but every day you're on the grind, right? You're doing your thing, you have your routine. Maybe that's one thing actually I would change. I would try to stick to my routine a lot more than I do right now, but sometimes inevitably things come up and they change. Customers cancel the meeting, or they reschedule it to another day. I am not really, I haven't found the trick yet, but one thing that I would change about my job is I'd like to have a little bit more control of my schedule than I do right now. That's one thing that I would change. How would I go about doing that? Great question. Maybe if I took a project management course or something, maybe that would help. I've thought of doing that. So, hey, maybe if we have a third interview, I'll let you know what I've done in the future.
You can start by reading The One Thing by Gary Keller.
The One Thing by Gary Keller?
Yeah. You'd probably hate it, but it's about time management. Because they tell you to focus on one, like, what's the most important thing that you have to do? Block time and do that.
Yeah, that's not my issue. Like right now I block time for you and I'm able to do that. I'm not doing anything else.
But isn't the most important thing?
Social. I'm just kidding. I'm not doing anything else. Is it the most important thing?
Yeah, was talking to me the most important thing? Obviously it is, because you blocked the time to do it.
Exactly.
But
exactly.
Really.
But I mean in general, right? That's the control. Some things are out of your control, right? Customer meetings, or your boss gives you a call out of nowhere and he needs you to do something ASAP. Usually it's update your CRM or something like that.
Yes.
But yeah, it's more of, you have these different, call them projects or opportunities on the go. What's the most valuable one? Which one is going to close sooner than later? You have to be very organized for that. And I have the typical sales guy ADHD. That's my thing. So I have to focus, and yeah, I guess focusing on one thing would help to begin with. But yeah, I think time management, project management is something that I see that would add value to what I'm doing today.
Yeah, I think it will add value to everybody. I was just looking at project management books to read, because we're in the same boat.
Yeah, I mean, I've looked at some books or courses, or like some things are not applicable, and I think that's probably why I decided not to do it at the time when I was looking at it. But it's one of those things where you have to go through some of the things that are not applicable to find the ones that are applicable, and then you can use them in
Yeah.
your work life.
Well, I
Yeah.
think step number one is defining the problem, which I think you just did.
Mm-hmm.
So you're welcome. Next
Thanks.
question.
Next question.
Is there a book or resource you would recommend?
A book or resource. I'm reading a book called The Relationship Advantage right now. I forget the author, but I'm reading that book currently, and I think that's a good book for people that are involved in major sales. If you're an inside sales selling, one solution or a couple to smaller clients, then I don't think that's the right book for you. But if you're involved in large organizations with different stakeholders, high level management, and your company has high level management that typically would meet with such people, and you can help broker relationships between those kind of folks, then I think that goes a long way.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you're fairly young, but you've had kind of a long career in terms of trying different things within the sales perspective. Is there an advice you would give a brand new salesperson that you don't think they get from anybody else?
I would say treat your sales job as your own small business. If you look at it as a small business, that you're basically responsible for almost everything that happens. Of course, there are some things that are out of your hands, but you do your best to make things happen, because you're not only persuading the customer that your solution or you're the right company to do business with. A lot of times you have to persuade people within your own company that it's worth the time to spend with this customer, or improve your product by adding this new feature, or improve your service by adding this extra deliverable to the service for a little bit or not much money, or whatever the case may be, if it makes financial sense. So yeah, you have to treat your sales job like a small business.
Nice. All right, last question. Where can people find out more about you if they're inclined to do so?
If they're inclined to do so, LinkedIn would be the best place to find me.
Okay.
So linkedin.com/in/Moni Assi, one word.
You have it memorized. Okay.
Well, you can edit those, right? The default one comes with a bunch of random numbers after your name, but people should be editing that and making it simple to be found.
There you go. That's the good advice as well.
There you go.
All right, man. Well, go enjoy your call, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for coming on.
I appreciate your time. Thanks, Ramsey. We'll talk to you soon, man. Cheers.
Bye.
Peace.
As I mentioned at the start of the show, I had some bad experiences with VARs, and after talking to Moni, I understand better the thought process that goes behind closed doors in a value-added reseller. Maybe the companies I was working with were not great, or maybe I'm taking it too personal. I'm going to have to think about that. And Moni calls me out on a couple of things, like maybe you shouldn't feel like that. Well, he's right. Maybe I shouldn't. That's the beauty of talking to your brother-in-law. He's kind of blunt in your face, and I know where he lives, and I can find him at any point in my life. So if you don't hear from Moni, know that I did something to him. But jokes aside, I really enjoyed this conversation. I hope you guys enjoyed it too. Leave a comment in the show notes. Let me know what your experiences with VARs is, and if you're working for VARs or working with VARs. The show notes are at wetheSalesEngineers.com/show26. And if you haven't done so already, please leave a rating and honest review on your preferred podcast sorts. It really helps the show. It gives more credibility to the show. That way more people can find it and can make use of it. So with that, this is Ramsey signing off.